All right, welcome everybody to the Credit Canadians Toolkit podcast series. I'm doing an interview with a friend of mine, Chad, and this is part of our focus on the U.S. real estate market, looking if there's opportunities there for Canadians. So, Chad, I think I pronounced your last name Theriault. Is that right?
Very close. I am French Canadian, so it's
Okay,
Theriault,
Theriault.
Theriault there.
Theroux.
But
No,
thank you for
not.
having me.
Anyway, so Chad's had 20 years in municipal property valuation, personal property appraisal, residential, commercial field work, and he is a real estate investor personally, and currently working also as an AI integration consultant for municipalities and personal property audit contractor. So Chad, we're gonna talk about a few topics. How property assessments work in the U.S., why property taxes can rise even if values don't. Maybe we'll touch on that. How investors can effectively challenge or influence their assessment. Maybe a little bit about bureaucracy culture and the innovation gap that happens inside municipalities, the municipal mindset. And I'm hoping to talk about your long-term vision, which is your 10-year plan to build a founder-controlled, covenant-protected agrarian village. That sounds very interesting. So before we dive in, Chad, for our listeners and viewers, you care to share your story? How did you come to be where you are now?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I like you said, I've been in municipal assessment and finance for about 20 years now. It was not what I set out to intend to do. I originally worked as a martial arts instructor. In my uncle's martial arts studio, and my plan was to open my own studio and make my income off of that. I did have a studio for a time, but I fell into real estate assessment per chance when my uncle closed his school and I needed an income of some kind. And it's a joke among the assessment field that nobody chooses to be an assessor. They kind of fall into it because that's how everybody's story is. So nobody sets out saying, I want to be a property assessor and tax people. But it is something that you fall into. And I really enjoy the being right in the real estate market, in the thick of it. It was right around the time I started when I was 20. I had just read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was getting really into the real estate mindset, how real estate can really be used as a vehicle to grow and preserve wealth. And working even just temporarily in the assessment office sounded like a good plan. Maybe I might learn something, and I kind of just stayed with it ever since. And in that time, I've learned a lot about how government works, how taxes work within a municipal model, um, and valuation on a grand scale or a mass appraisal process, which is how we value property for taxation in the States. Very different than fee appraisal, which is more, a specific date, snapshot date and time, and it's one specific property, whereas mass appraisal, we're using statistical models to develop a value that is within reason for the state standards for all properties within a municipality.
Do you care to share the state or counties you've worked in, or?
I have only ever worked in Massachusetts. I've kind of been born and raised here. I haven't drifted very far from my home state. But Massachusetts is very interesting. We're known as Taxachusetts. We tax everything. It is not a very friendly state if you value where your tax money or where your taxes are going to be drawn from. Our sales tax, we got room tax, we got um, what I deal with in particular is personal property tax, which a lot of people don't know about. Then there's the real estate market itself, the real estate taxes. It's just it's very high taxation overall. I think we're like at one of the highest in the country in terms of taxes go uh, overall. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I did a couple months back, but they've slipped in my mind now.
Yeah. So So there's probably more positions like the one that you're working in Massachusetts than elsewhere. Like there's probably more assessors and stuff than.
Um, Actually, I mean, you would think, but there's not a lot of interest in becoming an assessor. We're actually in a shortage of people in the industry
Oh,
for now. Some of this is just because we haven't kept with the times in terms of technological advances. What did take a full department of people probably is not going to take a full department of people anymore if we just caught up to pace.
yeah.
But government integrates change very slowly. And I anticipate with the new AI initiatives, there will be some improvements in that regard, but it's going to take a lot of time to overcome the bureaucracy of everything.
So you've got some experience investing personally. Being in a high tax state, what kind of projects have you gotten yourself involved in?
I could really only say I've dabbled mildly in personally investing. The first property that I bought, I was 20. It was a personal residence. I wouldn't even call it an investment. It was a condo in the downtown Lowell area, which is about 30 minutes north of Boston. Um, and it was like a basement unit in a 500 square feet of space. It was like a one bedroom apartment essentially. And but at the time, back in 2004, right before the market crashed in the States, by the way. It made sense to me at the time. I want to get in real estate. Well, maybe I'll just buy this condo instead of spending 500, 600 extra dollars a month in rent. I could buy the same. It made sense. But then the market crashed out in 05, 06 or 6, 07 around there as things started to tank. I had to end up having a short sale it in 2008, and I took like a, I don't know, $50,000 loss or something like that.
Ouch.
Um, uh, so that was my first experience with real estate. My second one was much better. I learned more being involved in the assessment field, what I did wrong in that regard and what I could do differently. So when I bought this the second time, it was a two family. Um, I bought and I lived in one unit while I renovated the second. Um, and then when I moved to this, I moved to the second renovated unit and then renovated the bottom and then rented it out. And what I did was I added a bedroom to each unit, not by adding, in addition, but by reconfiguring some of the rooms. So I forced the appreciation by the bedroom count and the rents. So I was able to effectively eliminate my contribution to the property, and I lived for free. That was big for me because I had just started my family at the time. And my plan was to finish the unfinished attic and force even more appreciation into the property, and then sell then. But I ended up selling for about $175,000 gain at the end of 3 years when my ex-wife at the time, my ex-wife now, my wife at the time, wanted to move into something bigger because I had just had my fourth child. So that's when I had sold and taken the gain there.
Oh, right.
But that was a fun experience, fixing the property up myself, um, learning where all the problems come in with the rehabbing projects, but understanding the concepts of where to force the value and take advantage of the forced appreciation there was my big win, I think. Just because of the way that extra bedroom in each of the units really really made a big difference in the rent potential.
Yeah, it sounds like a big win. So, um, yeah, when you find something that works, it's always great if you can repeat it, right? But it's always tempting to go on to a new thing instead of doing what works. But yeah, that sounds great. Anything in the pipe now, or
Nothing now. I'm more focused on work in the municipality and my consulting and contracting stuff that I do outside of that. And then my goal will be at some point to take the proceeds from the work that I'm doing and reinvest that into real estate because that's where I've experienced the most success in any terms in terms of any kind of wealth gain or money making. It's been real estate that's done it.
yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about your idea later on. So yeah, why don't you can you tell our listeners, yeah, how do property assessments work? Not only, in Massachusetts, maybe you have some insight about how they work across the entire United States.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, like I was saying, we do something called mass appraisal, which is basically statistical modeling that is designed to value all properties within a designated area at once. Um, it's very different than fee appraisal. It relies on sales trends, cost tables, income and expense information for commercial properties, neighborhood patterns. Everything is just based on a single valuation date, which is usually January 1st or sometime preceding the start of a fiscal year, so that we have time to value the properties, set the rate, and then the taxation begins. Um, but the majority of incorrect assessments, I would say, happen from data errors because it is model driven.
Okay.
So any errors in your particular account is going to affect how the model derives your value because it's using your specific data and pulling off the model. So one thing that I would say is the assessors generally are, I would think we are looked at as the bad guys trying to tax you, um, which I wouldn't say is very true. I would say we're just the middlemen, really. We do the math. We try to keep the valuation process fair and equitable as best we can. And so we use, like I said, that statistical model and some, you know, an acceptable amount of error. We do a plus or minus 10% of the fair market value, and that's an acceptable. As long as your value falls within a plus or minus 10%, that's acceptable for the state in terms of a mass appraisal value.
Okay, so then property owner gets a letter in the mail, sees the assessed value and the tax rate and doesn't like it. What's the process for them? What do they do?
Well, I guess the first question would be, do you not like the value or do you not like the amount of taxes that you're paying? Because those are two different separate questions. Those are two separate questions.
Right.
The value could be very much in line with what the market has dictated for the mass appraisal statistical model, but it could be that the tax rate has increased significantly because of the municipal government spending habits. Um, and that's kind of where my inside knowledge, seeing the way that governments work and spend and seeing how firsthand how certain policies or the way that governments handle things within the town really influence who or who comes to the town in terms of business for which drives employment, which will also affect the real estate potential. If you don't have businesses coming to your municipality, you're not going to have good commercial value and a lot of vacancy, which is not going to drive residential value because there's not going to be anybody that wants to live in your town because there's no job opportunities there. So it kind of really painted the big picture for me in terms of how to analyze a market.
Yeah.
Um, and your local government is a great resource for analyzing your market if they have the resources set up, in particular for an economic development plan or
Hmm.
coordinator. Our municipality currently doesn't have one, hasn't had one for a number of years. Probably one of the reasons we're experiencing some of the difficulties we have with the vision for the town.
Yeah.
If you can, as a real estate investor, understand what the vision for your market is going to go into the future, you can extrapolate patterns in terms of potential for an increase in either rental value or appreciation in the market.
Yeah. So if the city is well run, they're gonna have a good planning department and probably a report that stretches out for, projected growths and stuff and zoning changes and
Even small policies like they influence how fast building permits get issued,
yeah.
how many inspections are required. They can really hold up your rehab process if you're not meeting these regulation requirements for your particular municipality. So really understanding that how the local government works with a real estate investor is kind of key too. And another thing I would say as a caveat to that is I've worked in two municipalities total. One was a large city. This one's a large town.
Yeah.
No department knows how to communicate with each other effectively. Not one.
Hmm.
It's like one hand they telling you that you need to do this, this, and this, and the other department has no idea that that's what they're doing, and they're telling you another thing sometimes. So that's one of the inefficiencies that I have noticed in the government. Um, is outdated policies and procedures that kind of interfere with what you as a real estate investor might be trying to accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. So, if it is kind of a flat market and my assessment hasn't gone up, my tax bill goes up. It's just the municipality jacking rates because they need more money.
Yeah, it's all budgetary expense items. So what are they spending their money on? And is it good things? Is it things that are going to be giving value back to the community and therefore the real estate market itself? Or is it nonsense, waste, detracting from the market? And that's kind of again why paying attention to what's going on in the local government is kind of important.
Yeah. And are the local meetings there public? Like anybody can attend
They are, yep, they're
municipal meetings?
the town meetings are all public. Um, I've had very little experience in the actual town meeting process. I've flown under the radar for many years, just kind of doing my job and learning and staying
Yeah.
quiet. Um, so I haven't really jumped into the how the town meetings are conducted on an official basis, but I've been to a couple of them. I see how they're run. I hear the things that they talk about, and then I see how it unfolds
Right.
in real time.
So as a real estate investor looking at a market, I think it looks good. It's probably useful to get educated on, the history of how the municipality's been run, and then maybe, looking in on some of the meetings. I'm sure a lot of them are recorded and posted online or whatever. You can get a
Yeah,
sense.
nowadays they are. You don't even need to
Yeah.
go. You can watch everything
Or you can
recorded.
read them, you can read the minutes or whatever. But I know I've done that before. Is like you get the city that or the municipality wants to go in a certain direction. They say they're going to allocate resources and funds to do that, or they're going to put in a new road that's going to improve access to this neighborhood or that. You kind of get a little bit of a crystal ball into the future, like, oh, this neighborhood values are going to go up because now it's more accessible, or whatever the case may be.
Or
We're
the
gonna-
center of town that they want to completely revamp for aesthetic purposes that
yeah.
is going to completely destroy commercial business in the area for 2 years while they do it.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna put bike lanes in everywhere, even though nobody rides bikes because we want to put bike
Yeah,
lanes
things
in.
like that are
Yeah,
questionable. Sure.
but there's some good things that come too. Like we want to revitalize an area, so there's going to be a 10-year tax holiday on any new developments in this
Yep.
area. So if you know that's coming down the pipe, maybe you can buy some properties in that specific area for redevelopment at discounts today compared to what they'll be once things go further along. So no, that's really good insight. Yeah, so you really gotta. So do you want to talk about, inside the municipal mindset, a little bit more, and then we can move on?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would say in terms of being a real estate investor, when you'll interact with my office in particular will be when you get that tax bill every year and you see the increase, either because of a value increase or a tax rate increase because of the budget. You want to make sure that you're checking the value because it's not a perfect system, and we have an abatement process or you can challenge your value every year. And this is one thing that I will say you need to pay attention with is everything is law based. There are
Yeah,
deadline requirements. There's filing requirements. Discovery processes. It's very procedural, and it can be very complex. And so understanding how to appeal your value in your town. It would make sense if you're going to invest in a municipality to visit the local offices and ask questions about how they do things.
yeah,
And kind of educate yourself a little bit in areas you may not understand. But in terms of what a real estate investor might do with our office is for certain make sure that their value is in line with what's going on in the market. One thing that I will say is we're always about a year to a year and a half behind of what the actual market is doing, and that's because of the way that the calendar and the fiscal year fall, and then the amount of time it takes to analyze the data. So if we have an assessment date of January 1st, 2025, our fiscal year will start 6 months later, and um, all of the sales data for that year is actually from 2023 because we don't even have all the data for 24 yet. So it's almost a year and a half behind the
Yeah.
actual market. So that's another thing that will kind of catch um, property owners by surprise, is especially if there's a large dip very frequently,
Right.
or very suddenly, I should say. Their value might drop off precipitously. We actually experienced this in one of the big cities I work for. Our 2 and 3 family homes during the market crash in 2007, 2008, their values plummeted anywhere from 40 to 60% in a 2 year time frame. And that was a big hit for those property owners. Their values will drop um, so fast, and then they'll come in and it's like, my house isn't worth this. I can't sell my house for this. It was like, well, yeah, but a year and a half ago, when the assessment date took place, you could have. And so that lag in the procedural timing can really throw some people.
Yeah. Yeah. So your workload no doubt goes up when you're getting all these appeals if there's a huge shift in market conditions like that. So
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, well, the lag exists here in Canada as well, you know. Any assessment, every year you get the letter in the mail, your property's worth this much. And I think for us it's you know, June 30th of the previous year is the date that they're picking. And then that's what your property taxes are calculated off of. And yeah, it's typically 6% less than what the actual value is, or on our average home about $50,000 less. So yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of the same across markets in North America. Um, yeah, so have you seen people get significant success when appealing property values and really
Absolutely. And this would
reducing
be
their
the
tax
big tip
bills a
that I
lot?
can give you. Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. This would be a big tip. And I would say that one of the big things I've learned is that the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah,
If you complain, you will get heard just so that they stop having to listen to you complain.
right.
So, um, because of the way that um, local governments have trailed behind in their ability to keep up with the workload, not adopting new technologies to do so, there's only so much that we can handle, and so it's human nature to try to work through as much crap as you can and put stuff to the side. So if you want to be heard, you should speak up, and you should speak up more than once. And I would say you want to make sure that your tone will matter. We're still people, and we're just doing our jobs, and we're trying to abide by the law when we do so. But it's not a perfect system, and you can challenge it, and you should challenge it because of that 20% margin of error that we're allowed, plus or minus 10% in either direction. You more often than not will probably get something if you're loud enough, and you can, this is the other part, not just be loud, but you can back your argument up with fact.
Yeah,
Everything for us is prove it. What evidence do you have to support your claim? What evidence do you have to show that the value is this and not this?
right.
And you can easily do that by challenging the data on the record card, providing different comps or income and expense data. So there's always something that you can do to challenge the value.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you got an appraisal for a lender, you can share that, I guess.
It depends. It's always have to be arm's length, so it depends on what type of appraisal it is.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of bank appraisals that will come in for REOs won't be really accepted because you know they're appraised at the discounted rate, so it's not really too indicative of an actual market value. But so there are things like that that will be taken into consideration for sure.
so our REO is just for those that don't know the jargon. What is an REO?
Real estate owned, so that would
Gotcha.
be bank owned property.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
that's the other thing that I guess I could probably touch on too is that the assessments are all based off of fair market value. Arm's length sales. Any kind of influence on the value outside of a willing buyer and a willing seller, we code out of the sales data. Um, and so we go through all these statistical analyses of how we analyze the data, what data is considered good versus bad. We look at the outliers, and then from all that we pull up a value.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a similar process to what, an independent appraisal would do.
Yeah, it is very similar. It's just that it's every property at once as opposed to the single property at a single date and time.
Yeah. That's great. Was there anything you want to expand on, or you want to? I'd like to talk about your long-term vision here. That sounds very exciting to me. But yeah, if there's
Yeah,
any,
absolutely. We can talk about that. It's a newer idea. It is the least developed idea that I have in terms of what you wanted to talk about today. But I'm certainly willing to go through the concept of it. I'm by no means an expert in any capacity on how to pull it off. It's just something that I decided I wanted to do. But I've always been very outdoorsy. I like to kayak, bike, hike, camp, backpack, um, and homesteading has been a big interest to me. I always wanted to be able to just live off the grid in seclusion if I wanted to, and be able to sustain my life off my property. And I
yeah,
kind of extrapolated that idea a little bit in terms of what I might do with that. First I was looking at land up in Maine and Vermont where I might be able to buy a couple hundred acres and just live up there in the mountains or whatever. But the more I thought about it, I realized, all right, well that I could do it. People have done it, they do it, but by yourself is not the best way to get things done long term.
yeah,
If you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together, is the saying, right? So that kind of branched into, well, what if it were a community of homesteads? Um, but I didn't like the idea of not being in control of my neighbors in that regard. If I'm going to go through all the trouble of acquiring all this land and developing it the way that I want for the peace and quiet that I am hoping to enjoy,
yeah,
I'm not too keen on giving up a lot of that control, just because a community mindset would be better. So I've been playing around with ideas about. I've looked into Texas in terms of land. I think land would be easy just in terms of property rights and land availability. So I thought Texas would be a good place to look there. And I'd
yeah,
like to get anywhere from 200 to 500 acres. And from there, I'll start with my simple homestead. I'll be able to get it. I want to get it self-sustaining. And then once I can do that, I can branch out and kind of vet people that I might want to build this village essentially with, or this community with, where we have anywhere from 5 to 10 additional people or families that are all working together on this massive property, leveraging each other's time, skills, and resources for the benefit of everyone. Um, I started looking into how you could do land conveyances with covenants and land leases and things along those lines on how I could make the how everything could be structured in terms of legality.
yeah.
And so I'm not an expert by any means in that, but those are the general concepts of how I would organize the expansion into the village or the community, if you will.
Right. So yeah, and I imagine when you're picking a piece of property, you're looking for, sustainability, access, be able to grow or raise your own food. You need water, you need
Exactly.
arable soil. There's so many factors to consider. Um, electricity source, all that kind of stuff. Everything that a homesteader would have to deal with. Um, yeah. Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. This is like a 10 year long-term goal that you're in the process of
Absolutely, yeah.
developing.
I got my youngest kids are 7 and 8 right now, so I figured 10 years they'll be adults, and I'm free to move anywhere in the country I want to pursue that aspect of my life, and I can still be present for them as much as they need to, as adults, I suppose. So the goal would be between now and then to acquire the resources to purchase the land, investigate the legalities of how to organize the property acquisition and conveyance of any land or leased rights for any additional families. Market research for the land that I might want to acquire, surveys, things along those lines. What types of even just put I don't even think I've done this yet, but even just putting together a list of what things I might require in a stretch of land for sustainability. The
Yeah.
things that you had mentioned, so compiling all that stuff and doing the research and analyzing pieces of land here and there so that when the time comes, I can pull the trigger and have some fun with it. I'd
Yeah.
like to buy. I'd like to buy anywhere from 5 to 7 years from now, but really start to develop the community aspect of it at the 10-year mark.
Yeah. Well, the beautiful thing about today's day and age is you can almost buy, a piece of property like that anywhere. And it doesn't matter how secluded it is. You got, satellite internet. You can still interact with the broader economy and marketplace, and earn income that way while still having that lifestyle. Um,
Yeah, and that's kind of the goal too, right? Is and I'm not just going to be able to just jump into a homestead and not have any kind of income, right? So the goal would be to slowly transition to a point where the fruits of the homestead can actually not just pay for the homestead, but I'm actually making money off the excess, and
yeah,
that would be kind of the goal with that. So
yeah,
whatever it is I decide to grow or produce, or the community as a whole decides to grow or produce.
yeah. No, my brother lives a similar lifestyle to that, and he really loves it. So, but yeah, it's a lot of work upkeeping property. Like, there's a reason why farm kids know how to do everything because you have to be the one that does everything, right? So,
Yeah, but I really am excited about it. For a number of reasons. I know one of the reasons I've noticed that when my dad retired recently, he's been nonstop with his property, and it's just his childhood home. His dad built the property when they were kids to live in. He inherited it, and he spends all of his time. He was in construction, running around his property, doing his little chores, and but he's mobile and he's moving, and he's getting up there in age, and but I know that mobility is life, and if I have to upkeep my property, it's kind of an incentive to stay mobile, right?
yeah, yeah. I know a lot of retired guys. They end up moving to and from the couch and the bed, and their mobility and health and everything just drops off a cliff. So if you've got something that you got to look after, it keeps you going. So
Yeah, sense of purpose, something bigger, and I think
yeah,
that's something bigger is the community that I'd like to foster. You know, people of like minds and values, and
yeah,
um, we can just build a community that we have some generational wealth and we can pass it on to our kids. And I think that'd be a lot of fun and of great value to those who have similar mindsets.
yeah. It's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this conversation with you and learning about Massachusetts and how the property valuation works. So you do some contracting, but that's primarily for municipalities. Do you work, for individuals at all, or
I don't at the moment, but I do. So the contracting would be audits for personal property accounts or personal property is everything other than real estate that's tangible that we tax in Massachusetts. So furniture, fixtures, machinery, equipment, merchandise, inventory, whatever it is, whatever you've got, we want to tax it in Massachusetts. So that's what I do now. but it's again, municipalities um, don't really actually not just municipalities, taxpayers don't even really know that this type of property tax exists in Massachusetts, and it's very um, poorly managed in most municipalities. So there's a lot of value that is there that is not being taxed. And so in the short term, I can contract with other municipalities to help them discover taxable property within their municipality that will increase their tax revenues to better fund their budgets. But that's all assuming that they're fiscally responsible, of course.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, as as a resident of Massachusetts, let's say, is there strategies that you can offer that would help them not have to pay additional taxes on this stuff, like different ways to
Well, in
own
terms of
things, or
personal property, so it's specific for businesses. So it's only tax is on the furniture and equipment and machinery that's used in the conduct of business.
I see.
So if you have a business in Massachusetts and this tax comes around, it's and you're in a community that it's underfunded. I mean, it's your right not to. You don't have to cooperate. Um, initially, unless they take it and they summon the records for this, they subpoena records for discovery, and that depends on what jurisdiction or state you're in, but what they're allowed to get from you is very dependent on the state that you're in. Um, but
So
I would say
as a business owner there, it's your responsibility to be reporting and paying this tax, right? Isn't it?
it is your responsibility. It's just it's not very well known. I feel like I spend the majority of my time running around, um, chasing people down, trying to get them to file appropriately, let alone, um, value the property efficiently. That kind of comes, but it's educating people mostly new businesses that come into the municipality. They don't know about it. They get blindsided by some municipalities that don't have the resources to fully educate and inform the taxpayer when they enter the municipality what their responsibilities and requirements are. But
Yeah.
that would go back to getting to know the local government that you're planning either on investing in for real estate, opening a business. You want to know, your government can be your friend or your foe. It depends. You just have to do the research.
Yeah, well, everybody always wants to say that we need less government or whatever, but there's certain things that you kind of want the government to take care of. You want roads, you want access to justice and court systems, you want protection from and the rule of law. So these things are things that's difficult for anyone to provide other than government, right? So, you
Well,
know,
that's it. I mean, and
you
that's
need the
the 14th
police, you
Amendment.
need
The
schools.
14th Amendment states that, we can't tax anything without, a direct correlation to the benefit being provided with the tax.
Yeah.
So when you think about what those benefits are, it kind of takes the pain away a little about paying that tax in the first place because we want some regulation for safety purposes, not over-regulation where it slows things to a halt.
Yeah.
But we want maintenance of our roads. We want police to enforce, rule of law. We want EMS and fire services to protect the properties that we have and the people in them. So the
Yeah.
government do provide some utility. It's when it gets to be too much. I think that's what a lot of people complain about,
Yeah,
where they
you
interfere.
want to know that when you're buying beef at the store that it's actually beef and not some substitute or the fuel you put in your car that
Exactly.
it's actually it actually has,
Exactly.
the right amount of ethanol or whatever it is.
That's right.
So yeah, you do need some. So anyway, well, it sounds like, your work is helping to find efficiencies, especially with AI integration and stuff. So maybe that over time will reduce government overhead and make things run more efficient. So
I
thanks for
hope
your work
so.
on that.
Unions will be a big impediment to that, particularly with
Right.
AI. They're not going to want to get rid of all their clerical positions with one AI for the entire municipality. They're
Yeah.
not going to want to do it easily. But the capabilities we're almost there, where we can basically have the administration automated with AI.
Hmm. Well, then AI will have to start paying income taxes and for
Right.
all the
Well, the way
lost.
that I look at it is it's a huge tool for municipalities to cut their budgets,
Yeah,
because we don't need to be paying people, clerks, even my job. If the data analysis can be done by an AI and there's somebody that's educated to monitor the system, of course, then why are we paying 10, 15 people to do the work that, an AI can take care of, and inflating budgets? It doesn't
yeah,
make sense to me.
yeah. It's fascinating where the world's going. Well, Chad, I really appreciate your time and the conversation today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sam.
And yeah, thanks for providing insight in your neck of the world there.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I'll close it with that. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Peace. Okay, so yeah, I'll cut out the beginning and the end there, but no, I think it was great. Thanks for having the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it went well. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I can nervous talk a lot, so
No, it was excellent. So yeah, I'll post it up and send you a link.
awesome. Awesome. Thanks again. I really appreciate you stepping in and doing these things. Um, I think that the information is incredibly valuable. Um, some stuff, it's all stuff that I've heard in other real
Yeah,
estate courses I take, but that's kind of the point, right? The information is still valuable and important regardless of where the source comes from. And if
yeah,
everybody's kind of saying that these strategies, if you get the information, these strategies work for more than one person, and there must be truth to that, right? So,
yeah,
um, you know, I was lucky enough. My uncle, the one that owned the martial arts studio that I work for, he also was a big Robert Kiyosaki fan. He bought a lot of the real estate education through Robert Kiyosaki, and I
yeah.
got to go along with him for the ride. So
Nice.
I got to experience a lot of the real estate investing seminars and courses in that regard without ever having to front the massive cost for it. My uncle kind of just let me do it
Yeah,
as kind of a thank you for helping him run his martial arts studio. So I
yeah,
was very thankful and fortunate that I had that education just sitting there waiting to be used, and you having this available for us and the guys in the group, I think is of tremendous value.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's always good to network and share knowledge. You never know what'll come of it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, happy American Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's right. Take it
Ours was
easy.
ours was like a month ago.
That's right. That's right.
We're all weird up here. Okay, thanks, man.
All right. See you later.